Hi, I'm Kalina.
And I'm Ben.
And welcome to Thunderbolt the Wonder Bus. Big family, so we need that room.
In here we have Tesla S batteries.
Did you want to climb up to the roof deck? So we have our 5 children. Oldest is 18, youngest is 7. Oh. And then we also have 4 furry friends with us. We have 4 cats. We've been on the road for 2.5 years. Come on in. So here in our living area, we've got a lot of hidden storage. So under both of these benches, they flip up. We've got all sorts of games, cat food, all sorts of storage under there. We also designed it so that we have storage back here. And these are actually our tables. They come out in here. They have legs that screw into them. And we have 3 of them total. So we can have a nice large family dinner in here. So we can fit about 14 people. It's cozy, comfortable. It gets a little tight, but it's a good time. So you can have a family style dinner. The legs for the table are hidden in here. So we've got a bunch of these legs. This is the, everybody's junk drawer that we have in here that goes on nice and deep there. So we move into the kitchen area here. So we have an apartment size range that will fit a turkey. We have roasted a turkey on Thanksgiving. We've got trash and then storage for all different pots and pans here. We've got a 5 cubic foot deep freeze. We like to get our meat local when we're around, like grass-fed, sustainably raised, load up on that and just fill that deep freeze. Oh, all sorts of good stuff. And this is the pride and joy of the kitchen. So all of our herbs, we've got our shakes and things in here. So this is about a third of my herbs, but we at least have some in the bus with us, the ones that we use all the time.
So the bus looks the way that it does because we did raise the roof. So we actually cut the roof off in between the first and the second rivets that go up to it. And we actually raise it up and then we put a transition onto it. And so that difference inside gives you almost like an 8 feet tall when you're looking at it. And as far as when we cut it and raised it, that part here is the transition. And that was something that was very difficult for us to do. We didn't have any of the right tools. We actually physically bent it with wooden pallets and just bent it little by little. And then when we went through and waterproofed it and put it together, after we painted it so everything's white on the top and blue on the sides, we've had more questions about, is it actually a school bus or not? And the answer is yes. It started as a regular school bus, this regular roof line all the way across, and we just did all the work to make it that way.
So we went with a Grizzly cubic mini stove, so the ones that are usually used in boats. We did the copper tiling to reflect it out, and it definitely puts off a fair amount of heat. We've got it up to about 700 degrees and it'll heat the entire bus and keep everything nice and toasty. We've got a very large stainless steel sink. Originally we went with this size because, hi Phoenix, our youngest, we wanted to have a bathtub for him. So the plan was to give him baths in here, but the build took longer than we planned, so he actually never took a bath in here. But with our large family, it definitely comes in handy doing all the dishes and cooking all the meals. And then I just added a shelf here for our toothbrushes and things, and then all of these shelves for more of the herbs and tinctures and things that we use, add in powders for our smoothies and things like that. Here is our drying rack, which goes up here, and our handy dandy little window openers so we can vent while cooking. It's also how we turn on and off the max vent because we lost our remote, so.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
Multi-use.
Exactly. So we've got a full-size LG refrigerator here. You're very, very full at the moment. And then full freezer down below. Again, all packed with all goodness. And we love to decorate it with our travels and our friends and our bus family. And we went with just the washer because it was a larger load, as well as we had heard that the washer dryers didn't really do either thing terribly well. So we'll use the washer if we're hooked up, and then we'll line dry.
So this is our electrical system. We have 1,650 watts of solar through these MPPT controllers, 4 Tesla S batteries. These actually allow us to link all 4 battery packs together.
We did a full wet bath, so we did half tile and then half cedar that I stained with linseed oil. We tried to do everything as eco-friendly and low VOC as possible. We built our own composting toilet with a urine separator that pipes right into our gray tank. And then we got a galvanized steel bucket that we use for the solids. We use pine shavings to throw on top of it. We also have a nice rain shower head in there, which is very luxurious. And we did a higher flow water pump so that we don't have low flow issues.
I knew that if we wanted to live the life we had envisioned, we're gonna have to do something radically different. So I worked for manufacturers, I worked as a quality engineer, and it's all the really boring stuff from day to day that keeps the company going. And ironically, though, that career is also what allows us to live full time on the road.
How we live as a family now, we're more connected. We've always been close, but just the new experiences and the freedoms that we have, I've just watched our children blossom in a way that we didn't see.
What was your guys' favorite place that you've been?
Probably Bozeman.
Bozeman?
Bozeman, Montana, or Nashville, Tennessee.
I'd say Glacier National Park.
That was a good one too.
Yeah.
Sweet.
Hey, any one of those 3 spots.
Memories.
And then here, so we installed this as like a throughway since we do have a straight bus. Sometimes people like to change in the hallway so that if we didn't have everything closed up front or we had company, we installed this curtain here, but we can open it and back into the bedroom area. So we've got 5 kids, so we did bunks. So each of these are 4 of the bunks right here. Everybody got to choose the size of their cubby, as well as their paint color and how they wanted their shelves in the back to look. Everybody has a pull-out drawer, and then a smaller one for underwear and socks. We did a rock wall for the kids to get into their bunks, as well as to get up onto the roof deck. So that hatch opens up and the kids can just scamper up there. So we installed boat hatches so that they're polarized and they still open the entire way. So we did a 8x8 cedar roof deck. This has been one of our favorite things. To sit up here, we love to watch the sunset, love to watch the water.
So for heating, a lot of what we've gone to is propane heating. This is actually the outside of our tankless water heater. So we went with precision temp, very high grade. It monitors a lot of items, and essentially as soon as the water starts flowing, it will start heating the water, and it gets our temperature up to anywhere between 120 to 140 degrees, which is really hot in our system. We run that both for our internal appliances, sinks, washing machine, things like that. We also have it to use to run through our radiant heating, so under our flooring.
And then we've got the master back here. So we have this custom-made barn door that my father-in-law made. So it separates the master from the rest of the house. We have a king size bed up here. Then we've got the mini split for air conditioning in the back. I'm a big bookworm, and so is my daughter. And we tried doing the Kindle thing, but I just love the feel of the book. So I have some of my reference books with us, and then, you know, fun romance novels. This area that I'm standing in is my husband's work area. So this desk folds up, and then he can use a stool to either sit or stand and use it as a standing desk. But this is where his entire business is run from, is right from this space right here. How did you want to get the little guy's bunk, or?
Oh, that's cool.
That's Lucas's little cubby back there. We did, instead of doing his and hers, what we did is we just share the drawer space. So he gets one side, I get the other side. And we did that because if we had separated the drawers, we would have lost more inches. Everything has latches so that nothing comes out when we're traveling. And they go all the way down. This one here, because we're a rear engine, we've got a little less space. So it's a much shorter drawer that pulls out, but we used every little piece of available space to fill. So this is like my original rendering.
This is all I had to work with.
Mhm.
This was This was the instructions that I was given on how to create our home. And there was no dimensions on any single one of those prints to save your life. That's not how my wife thinks or works. And it was, this is what we need. And so I built
But
it.
the colors are here.
Exactly. It took 4.5 years to build. A lot of the time was spent because we were doing weekend warrior projects. So we would have regular jobs, we would be living our lives, raising our children. We would pick a project, work on it, and then as all bus projects, it wouldn't go right the first time, so we'd have to repeat it. And so it kept taking longer and longer and longer. Initially, we had thought that in 2 years we could get it all done. 4.5 years later, it was able to be lived in. I wouldn't call it done by any stretch of the imagination, but it was enough to live in and enough for us to quickly, over the next 3 months of living in it, to bring it up to the point where we considered it done. So here on the other side of the bus, we have our water system and also our propane tanks. When we fill water in through here, we actually use the pressure to send it immediately through here, and it goes through a set of 3 clear source water filters right off the bat. And so these water filters filter for immediate sediment, filters for additional very, very fine particles. And then we also have like a virus guard in here too. So we wanted to make sure that anywhere we filled up water, it could be from Flint, Michigan, if we put it through this water system here, it'll filter out 99% of everything that we need to worry about. And this is before it even gets to our tanks. Those 100-gallon tanks run right along the underside of our bus. And so we have one on this side, one on the other side. They're attached at the bottom by a pipe. And so essentially they fill up. So when we're full, we have 200 gallons of fresh water that we can use. We also have mounted on the outside of the bus an external shower. So this shower here will come out, we can run it, and we have usable hot and cold water out here at the tap. We have kids, so there's quite a few times we've actually had to hose them off before we're allowed to come back into the bus. And this has worked really, really well. So inside the bus, one of the major portions we have here is what we call like our control panel. And this control panel does a lot of different things for us. We actually have up here, this is related to the batteries on the bus, and it actually monitors what our voltage is at, and we can actually go through and figure out how many watts are we using, how many are we generating, how many amp hours do we have left. It tells us a lot of different things about the unit itself. It tells me the temperature of the batteries too, in case I'm worried about it. We also, here we actually have our temperature control. This is actually what controls our radiant heating. So we can actually turn it on, and as long as the setting is higher than whatever temperature it reads, then we can actually tell that it'll turn it on and run it. We actually have this screen itself is actually monitors all of our water tanks. So we have our fresh water, we have 2 freshwater tanks. So we have a right fresh, we have a left fresh, and then we have a gray waste. So it actually monitors our gray wastewater, just so that we can tell what levels we're at, and it actually alarms if we get really low on our fresh water or if we get high on our gray water, so we can dump it before it overflows or we run out of water. We have tank heaters on our bus, so sometimes we're in places where it gets under 30 degrees, hopefully for a short period of time, but we never know. So we actually can turn on our tank heaters. It'll turn on electric heating pads under all the places where we need it the most, just to make sure that we don't freeze, especially overnight. We have light switches here. We have on the outside of the outside of the bus, we have LED floodlights, and each one of these will flick on basically each side of the bus. And if we turn all of these on, we pretty much will light up whatever area we're in at nighttime. And then this is just the regular light switches that we have up above us. When we moved into the bus, after about 1.5 years, we started having bus problems. Our engine wasn't too happy. And as it turns out, we somehow, and I say somehow, I'm an engineer by training. Also, I have friends who are mechanics, but this bus somehow traveled on oil that didn't actually have oil in it. It had antifreeze, it had a mixture, and it was the consistency of like a milkshake versus oil.
Chocolate fudge. Pulled the drain plug, and it was like blup, blup. And he's like, I found your, we were refilling 3 gallons of coolant every like 200 miles, and we had no idea where it was going. We had an inline sleeve failure. And so all the coolant just got like churned up like it was peanut butter into the engine. And he took it apart and was like, how the hell was this engine even running? And for him, again, very analytical, logical guy, he was like, okay, this makes me believe in the energy of the spirit of it. He was like, you were keeping Thunderbolt running. Every person that a piece went to, they were like, oh, this bus got towed in. He was like, no, man, it came in under its own power. And they're like, no, Like, no fucking way. There's no way that this came in under its own power. And he was like, it did. And like, he just kept deeper and deeper into the engine, and more he was like, this bus shouldn't have been running. This bus shouldn't have been running. This bus really shouldn't have been running. How the hell was she running? And I was like, oh, okay, maybe I am a much more powerful being than like I give myself credit for, because I would constantly check in with her and put my energy into her. And now that the engine is fixed, I have a lot more energy, so that's nice.
But on top of that, my oldest son wants to be a mechanic, a diesel mechanic for cars, restorative, and so he was involved in the rebuilding of the engine. And it took slightly more time, but it taught him skills that I could never imagine have found in this, at any education, in anywhere.
Yeah.
And so that pretty much sums up our life, is that even if something happens and it's not what we expected, it almost always works out for us in the greater end. So yes, it's something, it wasn't great, we didn't plan on it. Yes, it was something we had to have fixed. And at the end of it, we came out of it with a bus that essentially has a brand new engine, is ready to go at least 500,000 more miles. We have our son, who is way more knowledgeable at everything going on, and so we're more confident all the way around. And that, to me, kind of sums up the life we're living, why we're living it, and how, even though it doesn't work exactly the way we plan every day, it still works for the reason that we chose it.
Just, if you have a dream, put your energy into it and you'll get there. It might not be the way that you think, but you'll definitely get there. Thanks so much for joining us. You can follow us at Thunderbolt the Wonder Bus. Bye.
Bye.